Welcome to the Empowerment Zone with Ramona Houston, where we zone in on Black and Brown relations and our journey to empowering our communities.
Thank you for joining the Empowerment Zone. I am your host, Ramona Houston. Everybody is searching for health, happiness, and success. And that is what we are going to talk about today with our guest, Dr. Karen Poteete. Welcome to the Empowerment Zone. I am your host, Ramona Houston, and Dr. Poteete is going to tell us all about how to take back control of your life through engaging in health, happiness, and success. Dr. Poteete is a veterinarian, and she graduated from the Tuskegee University of Veterinarian Medicine in 2011. Currently, she works for the Georgia Department of Agriculture, and she also owns a mobile veterinary practice in Northwest Georgia. In June, she will stand for her boards in epidemiology. Today, she's going to talk about her journal through processed hair, unhealthy eating, drinking, and stress. And she's going to tell us all about how she changed her mindset and started focusing on total health and wellness and watched how it transformed her life. She will also discuss the ways we can protect our own health through understanding the different toxins that we consume, breathe, and live every day. And as you all know, I am a big health advocate. I believe in holistic health, mental, physical, and spiritual health, and emotional. And so I'm so happy to have Dr. Poteete with us here today. Hi, Dr. Poteete.
Hello, good morning. Thank you.
Thanks for being a guest on the show. I'm excited about hearing all about the hair journey and the health journey. And, you know, a lot of African-American women deal with issues of hair. And
right.
So that's going to be an interesting conversation that we've never discussed. I also experienced the natural hair journey. And so I no longer do chemicals in my hair either. Also, I exercise every day and eat well, I'm vegetarian, and just try to maintain good health. So I'm really interested in you sharing your journey with our guests for people who are working to be healthy. And as you know, we're at the end of the year, and when the new year comes, everybody has all these resolutions about how they want to change. So hopefully you can help our guests, our audience in this process. So tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from. You know, what you do, what you like to do. Tell us our audience about you.
Sure. So as you know, I'm a veterinarian, and I graduated from Tuskegee, and I started, I'll actually say this. When I was in vet school, I told my professor I want to work for the government because of the student loan debt. I didn't want student loan. So she said, well, why would you go all these years in school, study for your boards, and then do nothing with your degree? And I didn't understand that until I thought, well, I'm spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if I go work for the government, what would I do with this degree? So I ended up changing my mind, going to practice medicine. I never wanted to own a clinic. I just felt that I saw my daddy work in the business, in the grocery store business for 25 years, and he never had a life. 365 days he worked, and that consumed him. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work for somebody and enjoy what I did. I grew up in a very rural area, so I'm in a country where there's cats, every animal. Pretty much I had every animal. My grandparents had it. Only thing I didn't have was a horse. So I fell in love with animals and started my career practicing in the hospital. So I was in corporate America for at least 6 years. And then while I was there, I will say this, there was nothing but women and we surrounded ourselves with lots of different ideas, different information. And as I think this was the year of 2015, maybe 2016, there was this wave of let's not do processed hair anymore. Let's start with, let's stop using relaxers. Let's go natural. And I always relaxed my hair. I've relaxed my hair. I think it was just for me. That was when I was a kid. So I knew about, making sure my hair was manageable and what I thought, in my opinion. So when they introduced me to the idea of trying to go natural, I was against it. I was like, I can't do it. It's too much work, and I'm not. And so they just kept bugging me, and I said, you know what? I'll try. All I'll do is try. If I don't like it, then I'll go back to putting relaxers in my hair. And I only got them like every 8 weeks or maybe a little bit longer. Not often, but whenever I saw the new growth with my edges, that's when I decided to relax my hair. So when I started, I did not know what I was doing. I knew nothing about it. I did not research. And I ended up going to this beautician that I've been going to since I was in high school. And I'll never forget this day. It was, I think, October the 31st. And it was Halloween. And I said, well, I don't want a relaxer, but I do want to get my hair colored. And that's it. Well, I think I was getting highlights, and it was supposed to be brown, dark brown highlights. Well, she left one highlight foil strip in there too long. And so down the back of my head was a blonde streak. And I was like, it didn't go with anything. It looked horrible, but people were like, oh, I like it. It's so pretty. But I'm like, no. Well, because my head was like really itchy a lot, I would use Head and Shoulders. Head and Shoulders, as you know, is very drying. So I didn't know. Now still I'm on this new journey, and I didn't know anything about products. So I'm still going down the road just as I am. And as I'm looking at my hair using Head and Shoulders, my hair starts to feel brittle, dry, and it was breaking off, especially the part that was blonde. And so I was very upset, and I did not go back to that beautician, but I ended up going not to a better place. What is it? Styles Cuts, like the local salon that you see in the mall. And I said, can you help me with my hair? And she was like, well, you don't need to use Head and Shoulders. Use tea tree shampoo. Well, it's about the same, very harsh. So I was using that, and my hair still was horrible. And I finally found a beautician that was at the school of, let's see, what was it? Avita. And I asked her to help me. And she, as you know, they really work on trying to make your hair healthy because they use natural products. And that was my beginning of understanding how to change my product line for my hair. And I never knew that would start a domino effect for the rest of my life. So I started there. It took about 2.5 years with treatments of shampoos and conditioners that did not have any phosphates, any mineral oils, any sulfates, no parabens. None of that was in the shampoos and conditioners. Now, the price of the product was definitely 2 times more than Head and Shoulders, but I could tell a difference because my hair felt better. It felt, I would say it felt healthier. It looked healthier. I still had a way to go because I had to get all of that blonde and brown cut out. And it took about 2.5 years, and finally, all of it is cut out. And this was getting my hair trimmed every 8 weeks. So when I started with the hair, I started looking at everything differently. I started looking at the stuff I ate, the foods, the water I drank, the chemicals I put on my body, because it's one thing to look at a product and it says natural on the front of it. So as the consumer, you automatically think, okay, it says natural, it's a good product. But what we don't know is the ingredients. And as I've learned over the years, manufacturers pretty much don't want you to know what's in their products, especially when they're bad products. They won't be upfront about them. So they'll hide things, they'll hide certain chemicals in words like other ingredients, or they'll say, let's see, I think it's active ingredients, but they won't actually list the ingredients. And they'll put on the front of the container or any packaging eye-catching words: natural, organic, non-GMO. And then you look at the ingredients and you can't even read half of the words on there. So as I started off, it was little by little, because it's very expensive to change. But if you look at what your the other products compared to the products that cost maybe $3 or $4 more, then you'll realize that you're getting a better quality product, and also your money's going to be well worth it.
So tell us, you know, when you talk about your hair, that's very interesting on how that made you think about other parts of health. And so what was your transition when you talk about looking at, it's so important to look at ingredients, which people don't usually look at, because we assume just because it says natural or natural on the, like you stated, on the front of the package doesn't mean that it's all natural. Right. I know from my own experience, I was buying olive oil at the hair store, and I just happened to come home and it said something like 20% olive oil. It was made mostly with the product wasn't pure olive oil. Correct. And so how did your hair transition move into other parts of your health?
So then it started making me look at things differently. Now, we'll say I still wasn't on the bandwagon with the foods, because it was a process. Mm-hmm. I was learning. I started reading more. I started, because I think I was, I just maybe left corporate and went to the government. And I remember downloading this book called by Dave Asbury, and he talked about his journey as he was overweight. He had brain fog. He had everything that was associated with high levels of inflammation. And he wanted to get his health under control. He went to multiple doctors, and no one seemed to be able to understand what he was going through or even try to help him. And I kind of experienced that with going to my doctor. I did not, I did not know that the blood work that we get every year, every 6 months, is not enough. It only just covers the bare minimum. And I asked for other things like my magnesium levels. And he was like, oh, we don't check that. I was like, okay, well, they check your vitamin D, good. They check your B12, good. But what about my other hormonal levels? Or what about inflammation that starts before you have actual high blood pressure or heart disease? Mm-hmm. They didn't do all of that. And because of my age, insurance wasn't going to cover it. So I will say, let me backtrack a little bit. Back when I was dealing with my hair issue, a little before that, I was dealing with a condition I had where I was bleeding heavily. And it started my junior year in vet school. And I didn't know what it was. I was thinking that the acne that I was having on my face was probably from the products. So I changed skincare products. That didn't help. Then I thought, well, maybe it was the candy that I got from after Easter sale, and maybe too much chocolate make my face break out, because that's what we've always heard, chocolate makes your face break out. And so I didn't know. Went to the dermatologist. They gave me a cream. Nothing got better. I knew my periods got heavier, but I wasn't really concerned about it. So in working in corporate, I was working long hours, very stressful. And I was like, well, maybe my periods are like this because I'm, stressed out a little bit. Nothing much. I really wasn't concerned. I did mention it to my doctor, but she was like, oh, I don't feel anything, when she did my annual. And I was like, okay. And then, but she was checking my blood, and she knew that my iron levels were low. And she said, oh, get you an iron pill. And I didn't know any better. I was like, okay. But just like, and this was many years ago, I didn't take my iron pill like I should. I started it, then I stopped it. And so every month I'm losing weight. I developed a heart murmur. I was very winded. I went through a lot of changes, and not until I went to my sister's doctor on the first visit, she diagnosed me with uterine fibroids. So that's when I started researching about it. And back then, they didn't really have as much information about it that they have now. Only thing that came up that I saw consistently was dairy products. And I really didn't do ice cream because lactose intolerant. So I was like, that was an easy fix. Let me just cut out dairy products, or cut out ice cream, which I thought. I didn't drink milk. So I thought that was it, and had the surgery, and everything started back changing. And I was like, okay, we're back on a better track. But I always also read that they can reoccur within about 5 years. So I was like, well, how can I stop them or prevent them from coming back or slow the growth of them? So they really didn't give you information about it then. So I kind of put it in the back of my head and moved forward. But also, relaxers was also mentioned, that they could, the chemicals in your perms that can cause you to have uterine fibroids. The only thing is that they don't really know. They really can't put their finger on what causes it, but they do know that it is benign, and they can shrink and disappear. So it's just, how do you stop this growth or prevent the growth from happening? And they haven't figured that out. Fast forwarding to where I am now. So going to the doctor, when she did the blood work and she looked at my vitamin D levels, she was like, okay, your vitamin D levels, they're good. They're like, I think I was 27. Well, on a scale of 0 to 100, 27 is normal, but it's not optimal. Your number should be 50 and above, because vitamin D, as we know with COVID, is pretty much your immune system. So it gives you that support, immune support, that you're not getting. As African Americans, dark color skin, Latinos, but our vitamin D levels, we have to keep them. We pretty much have to supplement ourselves year round, because the darker we are, our pigment in our skin is, we have, it's harder for the sun to penetrate us. So therefore, we don't get those levels if we go out and sit in the sun for 10, 15 minutes. So now that it's cold and we're definitely not outside, our numbers do get lower. And so therefore, that's why a lot of people this time of the year get colds and other germs and viruses, because their immune system is low. It matters where you get your vitamin D. You can't just go to Walmart or Dollar General or the grocery store and pick up your vitamin D, because the quality of the product is not the same. There's certain companies that do third-party testing to make sure that what's in that product is in that product. It's not just, like you said, with the olive oil, 10% vitamin D and the rest of it is all blend of different other types of oils. And then you pooping it out and you're seeing the vitamin D capsule in your poop. Also, it matters what time you take your or when you take your vitamin D, and what do you take your vitamin D with. So a lot of times you have to pair vitamins with certain foods or other vitamins to help with better absorption. Some of them require empty stomachs. So my vitamin D level was normal based on that doctor's analysis. And at that time, I still didn't know. And then my B12 levels were low. I was like, okay, my B12 levels are low. She said, we'll give you shots. Okay, great. So I started the shots, and this was 2017. And within about a couple of months, or maybe a couple of weeks, and this was a shot every week, I started getting this really bad cystic acne on my arms and on my back. And I'm like, what is this? And I go back to them. I was like, look at this acne. Like, what is this? And it was like, we've never seen that before. That's strange. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing these shots anymore. So I spoke with a girl that I knew and about my situation. And she was like, well, I take B12 sublingual vitamins. And so I researched to find the best ones. And I started taking them. Not knowing where my levels were at that moment, but I started taking them, and then my acne stopped. I mean, I still have scarring, but I didn't break out anymore. And it matters the type of vitamin, B vitamins that you take, because I think that one was I can't think of the name of it. But it was a different type of B vitamin than the way it breaks down in your body. So it's better absorbed. And I'm trying to think. I think the methyl form is the best form, and not this. I think it's cyanobalamine form. That one, I may be saying it wrong, but that one is the one that's mostly in the injection, which your body doesn't metabolize well. So I had been researching this doctor that was an integrative medicine doctor, and her name is Dr. Taz, and she's in Atlanta, and she's a medical doctor that practices Chinese and Indian medicine, or Ayurvedic medicine. And so I researched her for a while, but the cost is not covered by insurance. So I knew my first visit, I would have to pay out of pocket, but I was determined to find out where my baseline for everything was in my body. So I went there, and I would tell you, it was a comprehensive 4-hour exam from, how you go to your doctor, you step on a scale and they just get your weight. You do a whole body composition weight. You look at the scale they put you on, measures the fat in your arms, and it tells you based on your height and your weight if your body frame needs a little more muscle or less muscle. They do a test that measures your energy in your body. If you're stressed out, they can see it. And what she does, she puts everything together. She doesn't just look at your blood work and say, okay, well, you got high levels of cholesterol. She or your inflammatory markers are high. She looks at, okay, your inflammatory markers are high, your blood work. And then we did a energy test, which also read high. So therefore, it's suggesting that there's some type of stress going on in your life, or inflammation that's surrounding your heart or your lungs or your liver. And I don't know, a lot of times if I go to acupuncturists as well, and they look at your different pathways, or is anything in your meridians blocked? So if there's emotional stress, then you hold it or you absorb it in different organs like your heart, therefore leading to high levels of inflammation. And you may not see that on a standard blood work panel, but you may see that off of inflammatory markers like your C-reactive protein, which is early stage indication of any type of heart disease. So if that is elevated, it will show before your cholesterol or anything else, because you can have high cholesterol, but if your inflammatory markers or your C-reactive protein is normal, then you won't, you're pretty much okay, but you need to get your cholesterol numbers down, if that makes sense. So we went through all of that and looking at your hormones. And then as I started there, I started looking at everything totally different. It like opened up a window in my eyes to say, okay, am I exposed to toxins in my environment? And I'm looking at air fresheners or toxins. The water you drink has toxins because of the PC piping that it goes through. The air you breathe, if it's, you have aerosolized air fresheners or you have candles burning, those put out toxins like your volatile organic compounds that pretty much are what we call endocrine disruptors. They mimic estrogen. So all of these things we're exposed to on a day-to-day basis. We know about your BPAs, your plastics, but not realizing that you shouldn't heat your food up in the microwave in a plastic container, but you should use glass containers, even down to your cookware. And as I started learning and understanding this, it's a lot. I mean, it kind of like the more I look at it, we're surrounded by things that we really can't get away from. Mm-hmm. So what do we have control over? I look at the areas in the Black community or community where there's Latinos, and I see the grocery stores that we have. They're Walmarts, they're Piggly Wigglies, they're your Audis, there's other stores that aren't the best quality products. And by me working for Department of Agriculture, where your meat goes, it depends on the level of wealth in that area. So Publix will not get meat from poor quality animals. Whole Foods will not get anything that's not organic, and it matters down to the soil and how long that soil has been free of any type of contaminants. Especially the animals can't be fed any non-organic or GMO foods. It has to be non-GMO feed. So, or grass-fed. So Piggly Wiggly may have that cow that has been on the cull bus, which means that cull cows are your poor-looking cows. They're your dairy cows that have been milked all their lives, and now they're frail. The quality of the meat's not good, and the risk of them having cancer is greater than 50%. So therefore, they're sending those cattle to the processing plants, and they if they do have any indication of cancer, they condemn that animal. But if it's in the stages where it's at the cellular level and you can't see it, that product goes straight through, and somebody's grocery store, like your Piggly Wiggly, gets it. The Publix will never get those type of cattle. And the same with any animal, the chickens and the pigs. So in the Black area or the Latino area, they don't have options to get the best of the foods because the nearest Whole Food is 2 hours away, or the Publix is an hour away. And then the cost of the products is 5 times greater than the cost of the chicken at the Piggly Wiggly. And also the quality of the products. Dollar General green beans aren't the same as Publix green beans. Even though it's the same brand, there's something wrong with that product while they marked it down and they put it into Dollar General. But we don't know that. And even though we have Black doctors we have Black doctors or doctors of color that we see, there's only maybe 1% that understands it to that level because they're not telling our community this stuff. And I'm seeing it because I see a doctor and you think in your mind, oh, they're a doctor, they must be healthy. But I'd say they work out and they eat fairly healthy. But what their idea of healthy is a salad or a spinach salad from the grocery store with strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and they may drink a juice or maybe a water. And they say, well, I eat healthy. And you hear that, you say, yeah, that sounds like a healthy diet. Well, break it down a little further. That spinach, is it organic? Probably not. Because why? You don't think, well, it's green, right? It's healthy. It's the pesticides that's been sprayed on the spinach. The strawberries, you should not. There's dirty fruits and vegetables, and there's clean fruits and vegetables. Strawberries at the top of the list is one of the dirtiest fruits. If you eat the strawberry, non-organic, because it absorbs so many pesticides. So you're looking at these pretty strawberries in the grocery store, and they don't say organic because, the organic one is $6.99 versus the non-organic is $2.99. So you get the $2.99, just the blueberries. Anything that you can't peel absorbs all of the pesticides. So you have to eat blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, raspberries, peaches, anything you can eat the whole fruit without peeling it, it has to be organic. Oranges, that doesn't have to be organic because we don't eat the peeling. Bananas they don't have to be organic. Anything you can peel, they don't have to be organic. But if it's an apple, it should be organic. Then you think about the juice. Okay, juice. Oh, it says all natural juice. But you look at the sugar content on that juice. You turn on the back of it, and it has 36 grams of sugar in it. Yeah, maybe juice, but that's a lot of sugar. So that doctor then gets a disease or get a health condition, and you wonder, like, well, how did that happen? The doctor eats healthy. Well, they thought they ate healthy because no one ever told them about down to the product how the ingredients or the chemicals or the if it's organic or non-organic matter. We haven't gotten to that point to understand that because it's hard when we don't even get that product or those items in our area. So it's the challenge. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's the challenge that we face on the day-to-day because I look at like the Flint water crisis. That was something that happened in a certain area because they didn't care about those people.
And so I appreciate you telling us your personal story about your journey toward being a healthy individual, and all of those things matter. And in terms of your process educates us, right? And what I hear you saying most of all is that we've got to educate ourselves on our own health and take our own health into our own hands. A lot of times we depend on others in terms of our health, and we've got to educate ourselves in terms of what we eat, what types of doctors we choose to use, or what type of the places where we shop, to make sure that we shop at grocery stores that provide healthy foods. There's a lot of things we can do. So could you give us a few calls to action on I said a few, but what would you suggest that our audience do to take control of their health, happiness, and success, as you indicated by telling your own story in your journey through your hair and your health?
So a few call to actions, I would say, with understanding first where you're at. You have to understand where you're at that moment, because they always say happiness or health equals happiness, good health equals happiness. And it does, because you feel good, you're going to be happy. And when you feel bad, you're just all in this mood and you're not, everything is woe is me. And finding out by just going to your doctor, if that's where you start, if that's the only place you can start, because we don't go to the doctor. Go to the doctor and get a workup. Get a full physical workup, get your blood work checked just to see where you're at. So then you have control to say, okay, is my blood pressure is normal? My blood sugar is normal, but I don't eat right. So then that's the second step. What am I eating that's going to contribute to the problems in my life later on down the road? Because we don't look at how things affect us later. We look at, okay, I can eat this food item for 10 years and never felt any issue. But in 15 years, now I have high blood pressure. So looking at what we eat is not, Rome wasn't built in a day. So you can't expect to go from eating fried chicken and French fries every day to going to eat salads and drinking smoothies. You start with cutting out something you know is bad and making a step. I determined to cut out sugar for and it wasn't a year, but it was for a period of time where I knew sugar didn't have me. I like cake, cookies, brownies. So I stopped going by the bakery. I had that urge, because the urge doesn't go anywhere, because your body says, feed me that quick energy source. So I cut it out, and then that desire got weaker and weaker. Now I have control over my desires. So you cut out that fast food item or something that you know you may need to cut out for you to have optimal health. So you may fail. It's okay. But we have to keep striding towards the right direction. Thirdly, you look at supplementing your body with vitamins. We all need vitamins. The soil doesn't have minerals anymore. So therefore, if our fruits, our vegetables are grown in the soil, we're not getting all of the nutrients we need. Take vitamins. My go-to vitamins that I take every day are my vitamin D, my vitamin C, my probiotics, my B vitamin, not just B12. And I take what else would I take? Omega-3 fatty acids. I do take some zinc. I take some oil of oregano, and I take iron, especially during months cycling. Also, determine if you implement one thing in your life, how does it impact you in a positive way? Because if you feel better every day when you get out of bed and you don't have aches and pains, you're going to tell somebody about it. And then they're going to want to know how you got to that point. And then they're going to do what you're doing. Then you're going to feel like, okay, I've completed this part of I'm completing the stress and how can I put it? I'm fixing the stress that was once a part of my life to change it to be a better, what are the words I'm looking for? Have a better feeling about my life, I would say. So that ultimately leads to success. So it's a health journey, educating yourself, because a lot of stuff, I will not lie, can be hard to understand. So you don't take it all in at once, and it can be overwhelming. This was a many-year journey to get to this point, and I'm still learning every single day. But you have to start somewhere, and you have to want to not leave your family or your loved ones or whoever else with that burden of having to deal with, well, you should have known to do better. If it's smoking, if it's drinking, if it's high saturated fatty foods, you have to think about who am I going to affect that loves me in my community, because those people are the ones that's going to have to care about you or see about you. And the way COVID has made things, you can't even go in the hospitals now for your loved ones if they get sick. So making sure that you just take care of yourself at the end of the day, and know and ask questions, because we assume we're doing good because we heard that you just eat your fruits and vegetables, but it's more than that. So asking questions, asking your doctor, and if your doctor doesn't want you to have certain things, or if they say, oh, it's okay, probably not okay. You need to question your doctor. Doctors only care as much as you care. They're not going to care more. So if your blood pressure is still high and you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then they're not going to care, because they're going to continue to give you more blood pressure medication because they make money off of it. So don't be afraid of the doctor, but listen to the doctor tell you to get to work on your diet so that you can get off that medication, because we don't have to take it if we make some lifestyle changes.
I totally agree with you on that. I had a rash that I broke out with all the time, had it for about 10 years, and was going to the dermatologist, and they kept giving me medications, different
Yep.
creams. And finally, I kept asking them, what is the root? What is the root? And they said they couldn't figure it out, what the root was. They said they said maybe it's your soaps and lotions, but they said it's not breaking out all over your body. We can't understand. So finally one day I just decided to do my own research on Dr. Google. And one of the things that kept coming up was that eczema is caused by gluten, and to do an elimination diet. And I was like, food caused this, and did the elimination diet and discovered that gluten gave me eczema, and I've learned how to manage that now. And so it's just like you said, mind you, Dr. Google doesn't know everything, but at least
he helps.
That's what I was going to say. At least it helps. And then you can go to different books and talk to different doctors about situations. So it's so important that you educate yourself. But the point I was making is backing you up to say, you don't have to take medication. Some of your challenges can be solved with foods and not engaging in certain activities. And so those are the things that we need to know. Now, early in the conversation, you mentioned a book about this man talking about his experience to health. Do you know the name of the book that you can share with our audience?
His name is Dave Asprey, and
because we on this this show we have avid readers, and so I would like to have that book by Dave Asprey. But
I'll tell you. Give me 1 second. His book, and it was an audible because
audiobook.
Yes. I'll tell you exactly.
Well, at least we have the author, if you don't find that, so that some of our people who want to listen more to his journey from being an unhealthy individual to being a healthy individual, that would be great. So I really appreciate you coming and sharing your story, because sometimes we don't want to share our personal stories, but it's personal stories that really connect with people.
Right.
And for you to tell us how your journey from hair, just from moving from being using perms to being natural, started this whole other journey, and as you well know, fibroids is an issue that many Black women have, and even I suffered from fibroids and didn't know what the issues I was having, and ended up having to have surgery. I heard a minister out of DC recently, Reverend Dr. John Howard Wesley, I think is his name. Anyway, he was talking about one of the issues that he hears most about in Black women in his church is women who are being challenged by fibroids. So, and we don't know the causes and there's no cures. So we really need our professionals in the audience, those of you who are wanting to go into medical research, to really consider fibroids as an issue, because we have a large percentage of African American women who suffer from fibroids. But I really appreciate you coming and sharing your journey and sharing those pieces of advice on how to become more healthy individuals. Great advice. Thank you for coming. And sharing.
Thank you.
Okay. You have a great one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So today we have Dr. Karen Poteete, and she is a graduate of Tuskegee University School of Medicine, and she's going to give us a strategy for college success. Hi, Dr. Poteete.
Hi, hello, how are you?
So what piece of advice would you give students to ensure that they succeed in college?
If I could give you one piece of advice, I would say for college students, do your best. Focus on making the best grades because times now are totally different from when they were when I was in school of almost 20 years ago. It's important that you look at your career path and where you want to be. Major in something that will guarantee you a job no matter what. And focus on how are you competing or compared to the working market today. Because it makes a difference if you're a communication major versus a business major.
That's it. So make sure you do your best in college because it's going to make a difference on how you do in your professional career. Thank you so much, Dr. Poteete.
Thank you.
A special thank you to the incredible team of the Empowerment Zone. Terry Gully, theme song. NADWorks, digital support, and of course, our featured guest.
If you enjoyed my podcast, please subscribe. We are on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to rate us on Apple Podcasts too. Thank you for your continued support.